Welcome back, everybody. Here today with more security camera nightmares, real stories from real homeowners who will never forget those notifications they received. Be sure to smash that subscribe button so you read the first to know when we release a new episode every day. And don't forget, we have a second channel. We'll be linking that down below as well. So make sure you check that out. Our first story comes from a viewer. It was just after midnight when Daniel, a homeowner in a quiet suburban neighborhood, got a notification on his phone. His outdoor security camera had detected movement. Half asleep, he rolled over in bed and opened the live feed. At first, he thought it was a glitch. The blurry figure standing at the edge of his driveway didn't move. It just stood there, staring toward the house. The figure was tall, wearing what looked like a hoodie, the face completely obscured. Daniel watched for almost 5 minutes as the figure never approached, just lingered in silence before finally walking away into the darkness. He told himself it was just a trespasser and forgot about it. But the next night, the camera picked up something again. This time, the figure was closer, standing right at the foot of his porch steps. When Daniel zoomed in, his blood ran cold. The figure's head was tilted unnaturally to the side, as if watching the camera directly. Daniel called the police, but by the time they arrived, no one was there. Over the next week, things escalated. Every night at exactly 3:15 a.m., the cameras would detect movement. Sometimes Daniel would wake to find the figure standing motionless in the middle of the yard. Other times it would pace back and forth in front of the door like it was waiting to be invited inside. One night, the feed captured something even stranger. The figure climbed onto the porch, slowly bending down toward the security camera itself. Its face was still hidden in shadow, but the audio picked up faint, rasping breaths like it was trying to whisper through the device. Then, without warning, the feed cut to static. Daniel rushed to the window and peered outside, but the yard was empty. The next morning, he reviewed the footage frame by frame. In the last clear image before the static, he saw a pale hand pressed against the lens of the camera, with long, sharp fingernails. Desperate, Daniel replaced every camera, even installed stronger locks. But the night after, the new system picked up something even worse. This time, the figure wasn't outside. It was standing inside the living room, perfectly still, watching the camera. The footage ended abruptly at that moment, and Daniel swears he never saw the figure leave. To this day, he refuses to sleep in that house alone. For our next story, we traveled across the pond to England. A woman from Yorkshire was getting ready for bed one evening when her doorbell camera alerted her to a visitor. The time was 11:12 p.m., and on reviewing the footage, she saw a man she knew to be her neighbor. Now, he wasn't a bad person, and they often joked about how they could see each other's houses from their windows. But tonight, he was acting strange. As she watched, he walked up to her letterbox and began violently shaking the post. Confused, she went to the window to get a better look. Seeing her neighbor covered in what seemed to be blood, his eyes wide with panic, he was banging and kicking the door as hard as he could. She yelled down to him, asking if he was all right. And that's when she noticed something terrifying. His mouth was full of blood. He tried to speak, but all that came out was a gurgle. Suddenly, he stopped his assault on the door and stared directly at her. Blood trickled down his chin as he mouthed one word, "Help." Just as quickly as he'd appeared, he vanished. The woman called the police, but when they arrived, they found no signs of a break-in, and her neighbor was nowhere to be seen. They told her to just forget about it and chalked it up to an overly active imagination. But the next night at 11:12 p.m., the doorbell rang again. There he was, her neighbor, except now he wasn't alone. Behind him, dragging its feet, was what looked like a large black dog. It was hunched over and whimpering. Whatever was behind him seemed to be holding him by the collar, dragging him away from the door. Once again, he turned to the camera and mouthed, "Help," but this time he wasn't alone. The dog growled and bared its teeth. It was then the woman noticed something truly disturbing. Its eyes glowed red in the dark. The two figures disappeared into the night and never returned. However, later that morning, the woman saw a patrol car parked outside her neighbor's house. Apparently, he hadn't been seen since the previous evening, and the police were growing concerned. Still, he never came out. No lights were ever switched on, and days later, officers broke in to find his body lying on the floor. He'd been dead for several days, but the cause of death remains a mystery. Some say he'd simply run off, while others believe he may have been taken by something sinister lurking in the shadows. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in next day for more terrifying tales.